Shalom. First and foremost, want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shah, by Hashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS that rule well. Peace, love, and salutations to all the brothers out there pushing this word of sincerity and in truth. Shalom to the brothers, sisters, and children out there keeping this word of sincerity and in truth. Okay, in this lesson, I wanted to go into how, in this kind of a lesson, centered more so to the women or directed more so to the women. However, it's for men too, because it works in two ways. And title it is well, I'm right now I'm a pair about how I get the title, but it's going into the topic of being with a man of the Lord is a privilege and a blessing. Being a man of the Lord is a privilege and a blessing, but what I want to focus on more so is being with a man of the Lord is a privilege and a blessing, because not all women are going to have that opportunity and that access. And what the Lord is returning to the earth is the true value of a man of Yahweh Ba'ashem Abashai, and how valuable you truly are, because us men of the hopeful elect, we are the next kings. We are the next, world rulers, the prophets, all the different offices, teachers, whatever your office is, the men of the Lord in general, you are the next kings. As the scripture said, we are a nation of kings and priests, which I'm going to get that real quick. And let me get it real quick. This is Revelations chapter 5 and 10. It says, and I be, well, Slakia. I'm going to start at 9. And they sung a new song, a saying, thou art worthy to take the book and to open the seals thereof, for thou wast slain and hast redeemed us to the Most High by thy blood out of every kindred and tongue and nation and people. This is talking about Yahweh Shah. And has made us unto our God kings and priests, and we shall reign on the earth. So we are kings. We are a nation of kings and priests. And that starts with the men of the Lord. So for the women, it's a privilege to be and a blessing to be with a man of Yahweh Ba'ashem Abashai. And I'm going to get the definition of privilege first. That's why I want to start it. It says privilege. And it says a special right, advantage, or immunity granted or available only to a particular person or group. And I'm gonna, each point in this definition, it goes down in other definitions. But right now, I'm going to start with a special right, or an advantage, because and like I said, this I'm speaking more so to the women. It's a special right or an advantage for you to be paired with a man of Yahweh Ba'ashem Abashai. Because I did a comparison, which I'm going to get next in Chat GPT. It wasn't common for a regular woman to get with a man of the Lord or a high value man, because the men of the Lord are the real high value men, having high morals, having that connection with Yahweh Ba'ashem Abashai, having the spiritual, having the understanding of the scriptures, having the Holy Spirit, that makes you the highest valued man on the earth, And we're a nation of high value men. All the men of the elect, you are high value men. Lord willing of that number. We are high value. I will say the hopeful elect. We are high value men. What this world consider high value, we're now seeing. Well, we already knew, but the rest of the earth is now saying that's not really what was valuable. Materialistic things of this world and the traits of this world that get you high in this society, that wasn't really what made you high value. But a connection with Yahweh Ba'ashem Abashai and living to his standards, and having all the spiritual gifts that come with that, that's what makes you truly high value. And only the women whom Yahweh Ba'ashem Abashai has destined to be saved will have that right, a special right, to be paired with those men, to be a wife of the men of the Lord. That's a special right. That's an advantage you have over all the other women. And like I say, advantage, a right, a benefit. It says an advantage or profit gained from something. You're going to benefit from being with a man of Yahweh Shema Bashah, as it say in Isaiah 32, verses 1 and 2. It says, behold, a king shall reign in righteousness, and princes shall rule in judgment. Which the king is Yahweh Shah, the princess is the 144,000. You're also going to have the rest of the 1/3 of men whom the Lord will deliver. And it says, and a man of the Lord shall be as a hiding place from the wind, and a covert from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dry place, as the shadow of a great rock in a weary land. That's what each man of the elect will be like. And any woman that is paired with a man of the Lord that's destined to be saved, you're going to benefit from him, because the Lord is going to be with that man, and he's going to protect him, and you're going to be under his wing. You're going to be under his authority, and you're going to be protected. And I might as well go and get the other one. Isaiah 13 and 12. I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than a golden wedge of Ophir. Look, blessed is Sirach 15:1. Blessed is the man that feareth Yahweh by Shema Bashah. You know, that's through the Spirit. Blessed is the man that's feared Yahweh by Shema Bashah. It's a blessing and a privilege to be a man of Yahweh by Shema Bashah. It's a blessing and a privilege for a woman to be with a man of Yahweh by Shema Bashah. So going back to the definition, an entitlement, well, I don't even really like that word entitlement, because that word entitlement has gotten, these women are so entitled. Freedom, liberty, don't like that. That's going into opposite of what I'm trying to go into in this lesson. So the rest of the definition, I'm gonna get down on some of the other points. It says something regarded as a special honor, which it really is. Do you understand that when the men of the Lord become great and be glorified, you're gonna be glorified too? Is not Sarah's name attached onto Abraham's legacy, and we still remember her to this day? You know, Sarah and Abraham, we still remember them to this day. That's a great privilege. That's a great honor to be remembered throughout all time. Throughout all time. And she was from the very beginning. That was post-flood, you know? Post-flood. Over 2,000, well, I always say, over 2,000 years ago, and we still talk about Abraham and Sarah, you know? Abram, name being changed to Abraham. Abram means exalted father. Abraham, his name was changed to Abraham, means father of a multitude of many nations. And that's what he was. And he's still great to this day. And Sarah, it means princess. You know, that's a princess. That's beautiful. You know, her name is attached to his legacy as his wife. That's a special honor. Now I'm gonna jump down. It says to grant a privilege or privileges to exempt someone from a liability or obligation to which others are subject. And here it is. You got Jacob's trouble on the way. Jacob's trouble on the way. And a lot of women are going to be subject unto the punishments that Yahweh by Shema Bashah has for them in Jacob's trouble, because they refused to repent. And they didn't turn back and they didn't learn how to truly be a woman. They didn't learn their nature. You know, if you are a woman, your nature is to be a woman. They didn't learn their nature. So now they have to suffer because of that. Like I say, but you're going to be exempt, because we already got Isaiah 32. We'll run it back one more time. Isaiah 32 and 2. And a man shall be as a hiding place from the wind, and a covert from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dry place, as the shadow of a great rock in a weary land. So you're going to be exempt from the judgment of Yahweh by Shema Bashah, because that man is going to be protected. And you'll be protected under him as long as you stay under him. And this is, of course, Isaiah 4 and 1. And in that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. Reproach. They want to be taken away from all the judgments that's going down. You know, they want to be taken away from the hard life which they're living. They don't want to be independent single women anymore, you know, or they don't want to just be single women anymore, you know, struggling. They don't want to have to go through all the trouble any longer. Like I say, take away their reproach. So they're already in it. So to exempt someone from a liability or obligation to which others are subject to. So it's a privilege. And down here it says to a private. It's private. It's exclusive, you know, only exclusive to certain individuals. So read the definition one more time. A special right, an advantage, or immunity granted or available only to a particular person or group. Now, the mass majority of these women in Babylon the Great, with the exception of the very small handful of sisters who truly repented and turned back to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, are average or below average women. And I went to Chat GPT and I said, what are the chances that a regular woman could get with a high value man in the ancient world? Because again, a man of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, you are the highest valuable man on earth. And it even goes into the type of men. I'm going to read it. It says the chances that a regular woman could get with a high value man in an ancient world were generally low, but not impossible. Only highly dependent on it. It's going to go into all the definitions. But like I said, it was generally low. All these women in this modern society they're below average women, actually. They're below average because they don't cook, they don't clean, they're not submissive. They don't know how to be women. They don't know how to be wives. They don't know how to be mothers. They're destructive. We can go on and on. And I ain't even put no tribe to it. I ain't put no color to it. I just said the women in general over here in the West. Because it ain't even just the Israelite women. It's all women, you know. But the Israelite women started with the so-called black women are the worst. You have, and in a minute, and you know, our elders have told us, and have told us that you have better chances dealing with the women of the other nations than you do with your own women. And if you deal with your own women, you have better chances dealing with the Northern Kingdom women than you do the Southern Kingdom women, you know. But this is the definition. This is what it says. It's a definition of high value man. In the ancient world, a high status man was typically a king, noble, or a wealthy landowner, a military commander or war hero, a religious leader or prophet. A religious leader or prophet. The men of the Lord have always been high value men. But of course with Esau Edom he's not worthy of any of these titles, you know, because you might say, well, you have Edomite kings or wealthy Edomites, this, that, and the third, military commanders or war heroes. Yeah, but they are the wicked, you know. Nothing that they have done or everything they have done, well, nothing they've done has been honorable. All their actions and everything they've done has been dishonorable, you know. They have not been a righteous nation. They are a wicked nation. They are not high value, but they tried to change the definition to fit them, you know. They tried to change the narrative to fit them only because it was their chance to rule the earth, so they had the power to do it. But they have never been a high value, even in today's society. I don't care how much money a Edomite got, how good he tried to fix himself up and look, you know, and how he tried to carry himself. At the end of the day, he's still an Edomite who got riches and power off of the wickedness of his forefathers. So like it says, I'm gonna read again. In the ancient world, a high status man was typically a king, noble, or wealthy landowner. And as the scriptures just said, Most High has made us a nation of kings and priests. So every Israelite man is going to be a king. Every Israelite man in the kingdom of heaven, started with the elect, will be a high value man, a military commander or war hero. And then it said a king, Yahweh Shai, is going to be the highest of us all. A religious leader or prophet. Again, kings and priests. But even right now, you got the prophets all over the world. The true high value men of Yahweh Shema Bashar says a successful merchant or influential politician. He had power, wealth, land, influence, and social capital, and often multiple wives or concubines. Because we wasn't subject to monogamy. That's another thing that Esau came with to further oppress the man, for one, and two, to control the population of Jake. You know, to try to have control over things. But ultimately, it was oppressive. You know, us not being able to deal with multiple women like we were designed to do. You know, that's very oppressive. You know. Now, two, the definition of a regular woman. This would usually be a woman of the lower or working class, no family wealth or noble lineage, little education or political influence. That's over half the women of Babylon the Great. Literally over half. That's about 99% of women. You probably got that small percentage of women who actually have some type of wealth. And 9 times out of 10, the percentage that is an Israelite woman is extremely low. It's furthermore, we're under the curses, you know, because in order for them to have wealth, it has to start with a man, you know, it has to start with a man. But like it says, this is the definition of a regular woman. Just using regular woman, that's over half. That's 99% of the women that we encounter. They are a woman of lower or working class, you know, but they taunt themselves or they parade themselves as if they're they're the highest value woman. Everything about them is completely exterior, nothing interior, you know. It's nothing about them that makes them think that they should be proud of interiorly, you know, internally, to say, well, I show forth these traits that makes me, you know, unique and beautiful, like Proverbs 31 says, you know. And true enough, like I said, this is not a lesson against the sisters, because we know that you are making that transition. But for the mass majority of women, they're not like this, you know. And it's more than just the working class. Like, that's why I'm going into the things that really make a woman stand out, that really adds value. I'm gonna get I don't want to get that yet. This is Proverbs 31 and 10. Proverbs 31 and 10. Who can find a virtuous woman? And matter of fact, I'm gonna get it in this Bible so I can get that AMP. This is Proverbs 31, verse 10. Who can find a virtuous woman for her value is far above, for her price is far above rubies. That's the KJV. Now the AMP, a capable, intelligent, and virtuous woman, who is he who can find her? She is far more precious than jewels, and her value is far above rubies or pearls. Now jumping down to verse 29. Many daughters have done virtuously, nobly, and well, with the strength of character that is steadfastness and goodness, but you excel them all. And how do you excel them all? Charm and grace are deceptive, and beauty is vain because it is not lasting. But a woman who reverently and worshipfully fears the Lord, she shall be praised. And I'm reading the KJV, verse 29. Many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. That's where your value lies at, in the internal person, who you are internally, that aligns with the type of woman Yahweh Bashim Abashah approves of. That's what truly makes you valuable. And that's why I said the mass majority, 99% of these women in Babylon the Great do not have value. They are less than regular women, you know. And me personally, you know, outside of the sisters now, outside of the Israelites that know the truth, I'd say I only know one woman, one person, at least that I know of right now from what I know of her, that actually show forth that what I'm trying to say, that show forth some type of internal character that's more righteous than the rest. You know, one out of all the women that I ever met in my life. Again, this is outside of sisters. So now I'm gonna keep going. It says in ancient societies, Mesopotamia, Greece, Rome, China, women's social mobility was extremely limited. Marriages were often arranged and used to consolidate wealth or power, not romantic or merit based, not how it is now. You know, you fall in love and this, that, and the third. No, it was about power. It was about extending your family lineage. You know, that's what it was about. Control, wealth, power, you know? And that's really what it's always been about, you know? That's why marriages were arranged. And sure, over time, you know, you will grow attached and closer to the person that you're with, but it wasn't all about romance and love. That came from Rome. Romance comes from Rome. That's not what it's all about. Now it says, what could increase her chances? Factor: beauty. Exceptionally beautiful women could attract elite men, sometimes even as queens or concubines. An example, Esther in the Bible. So when I seen that I instantly had to get the book of Esther. So this is the book of Esther. I'm not going to read all of it. I'm going to just jump around. This is chapter 1. I'm going to read 5. It says, when these days were completed, the king held a banquet for all the people who were present at the citadel in Susa, the capital, from the greatest in importance to the least, a 7-day feast in the courtyard of the garden of the king's palace. Jumping down, verse 8. Verse 9, Queen Vashti also held a separate banquet for the women in the palace of King Ahasuerus. On the 7th day, when the king's heart was joyful with wine and high spirits, he commanded Mehuman, Bezda, Harbona, Bigda, Abagda, Zethar, and Carcass, the 7 eunuchs who served in the presence of King Ahasuerus as his attendants, to bring Queen Vashti before the king wearing her royal crown, high turban, to display her beauty before the people and the officials, for she was lovely to see. Now, I'm going to get that in a couple translations. Well, really, I'm going to just get it in one. The NLT, it says, to bring Queen Vashti to him with the royal crown on her head. He wanted the nobles and all the other men to gaze on her beauty, for she was a very beautiful woman. So the king, he wanted his wife to come down and be, he wanted her to be amongst him, you know, wearing a certain outfit or wearing her high crown, you know. And he wanted everybody to see it because she was very beautiful. And the beauty of a woman cheer up the countenance, you know. It makes a man very happy to see a beautiful woman. Let me see if I can find that. Let's see if I can find that real quick. There. Sirach 36:22. The beauty of a woman cheereth the countenance, and a man loveth nothing better. Let me see if I can get that in the GNT. Real quick. Sirach 36:22. A woman's beauty makes a man happy. There is no fairer sight for the human eye to see. Right, so he wanted his wife to come be with him because she was very beautiful. He was already happy. He was already enjoying himself, and he wanted her to come around so he can be even more happy, you know, to see his beautiful wife. Verse 12, but Queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command which was delivered to her by the eunuchs. So the king became extremely angry and burned with rage because she disobeyed him. And you see how quick the things were different in the ancient world, and we're getting back to that time. We're going back to that. She instantly, he told her to come here, and she said no, and that triggered it triggered all these events that happened right behind that. She had a rebellious spirit on her, and you just think about how many women now you can't even get them. You can't get them to do anything. You really can't get them to do anything. You ask them, can you fix me this? Can you fix me that? They'll tell you you can do it yourself. Go in there and do it yourself. They don't. Women in today's time would not be alive in the ancient world. Women with today's mindset would not be alive in the ancient world because we understand reincarnation. We know that exists. But the mindsets back then was completely different. And I'm going to go back to that Chat GPT because it does compare the ancient world to modern day. So it says he was angry. Verse 13. Then the king spoke to the wise men who understood the times, asking for their advice. For it was the custom of the king to speak before all those who were familiar with law and legal matters and who were close to him as advisors. Now, all their names, I'm going to skip their names, the 7 officials of Persia and Media who had access to the king and were ranked highest in the kingdom, he said, according to the law, what is to be done with Queen Vashti because she did not obey the king's command of command of King Ahasuerus, which was conveyed by the eunuchs. And Memucan answered in the presence of the king and the officials, Vashti, the queen, has not only wronged the king, but also all of the officials, royal representatives, and all the people who are in the province of King Ahasuerus. For the queen's conduct will become known to all women, causing them to look on their husbands with contempt, disrespect, since they will say King Ahasuerus commanded Queen Vashti to be brought before him, but she did not come. Right. And see, Edom promotes it. He sets his society up for women to be in this mindset, to be rebellious. We didn't play that in the ancient world. See, in the NLT, women everywhere will begin to despise their husbands when they learn that Queen Vashti has refused to appear before the king. NET, for the matter concerning the queen was spread to all women, leading them to treat their husbands with contempt. Well, I just read that one in that saying. Man, I just want to see. BBE, for news of what the queen has done will come to the ears of all women, and they will no longer give respect to their husbands when it is said to them, King Ahasuerus gave orders for Vashti, the queen, to come before him, and she came not. Right, so at least the other nations, they understood, like, shit, we can't have that, We can't have these women being out of order. Starting with it don't matter if you the king's wife on down. Being out of order, and that's the same mindset that these women have today. They are completely out of order and don't want to listen to their husbands, don't want to listen to the man that's above them in authority. And like I said, they understood that. They were like, well, if she do it, then shit, all the other women, they gonna hear about it, then they gonna start acting this way. Then you gonna have chaos. It's gonna be complete chaos and disorder in your kingdom. You don't want that. So you need to punish her. You need to give her the extreme punishment so these other women will be afraid to ever do something like that. Because the king was the highest value. Well, I ain't gonna say the highest value, but in his kingdom, he was a high value man. So if he get disrespected, all the men under him who is just of the working class, they weren't of that level, they damn sure was gonna get disrespected. So verse 18, this very day, the ladies of Persia and Media who have heard of the queen's refusal will speak in the same way to all the king's officials, and there will be plenty contempt and anger. Right, see? He was like, look, it's going verse, it's the CSB, before the day is over, the noble women of Persian media who hear about the queen's act will say the same thing to all the king's officials, resulting in more contempt and fury. They're like, shit, it's gonna make us mad. Shit, all women, they gonna start doing the same thing. Shit, we gonna, that's what they were saying. But they understood this. They understood the order. And these regular women, these women, these modern day women don't understand this. The people of this world don't understand this. But the men of the Lord do. They understand order. Now, verse 19, in the AMP, if it pleases the king, let a royal command be issued by him, and let it be written in the laws of the Persians and Medes, so that it cannot be repelled or modified, that Vashti is no longer to come before the king Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal position to another who is better and more worthy than she. Now I'm gonna get the footnote, and it says the intent may have been simply to confine Vashti to the king's harem and put another wife on the throne. The ancient rabbi said, however, that when the king accepted the advice, he ordered that Vashti be beheaded and her head brought to him on a platter. And it's ain't no telling. That's probably what winded up happening to her, because that type of behavior has to be cut off. That cannot spread. We see what happens when you let these women have liberty. When these women have liberty to do what they want to do, this is what you see. Marriage is dropped. Women are whores. Diseases are spreading like wildfire. Babies popping up. Nobody know who the father is. Father's not in the household. The family dynamic is destroyed. I can go on and on, but see, they stopped it before it even started. They were like, "Oh, she didn't want to come when you told her to. Get out of there and put somebody else in there." And then she probably really did get beheaded, and everybody heard about that. Now they was gonna hear about her refusing to come, but they was also gonna hear about the aftermath of what happened. And they ain't gonna get out of order. So I'm gonna jump to chapter 2, because like I said, they brought up Esther. So now let's get let's see. Verse 1, after these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus had subsided, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what had been decreed against her. Then the king's attendants who served him said, let beautiful young virgins be sought for the king. Go find me some young virgins. Let the king appoint administrators in all the provinces of his kingdom and have them gather all the beautiful young virgins to the citadel in Susan into the harem, under the custody of Hegai, the king's eunuch, who is in charge of the women, and let their beauty preparations be given to them. Then let the young women who please the king, be queen in place of Vashti. This pleased the king, and he did accordingly. So now, I'm going to just keep going. It says, there was a certain Jew in the citadel of Susan, whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shema, the son of Kish, a Benjamite, who had been deported from Jerusalem with the captives who had been exiled with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had exiled. He was the guardian of Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had no father or mother, meaning they wasn't alive. The young woman was beautiful of form and face, and when her father and mother died, Mordecai took her in as his own daughter. So basically, it was saying like she had a nice shape and she was very beautiful to look on. So now I'm gonna jump down. Verse 9. Now the young women pleased Hegai and found favor with him. So he quickly provided her with beauty preparations and her portion of food, and he gave her 7 choice maids from the king's palace, then transferred her and her maids to the best place in harem. Esther did not reveal the Jewish background, which she was the Israelite, of her people or her family, for Mordecai had instructed her not to do so. Every day, Mordecai, who was an attendant in the king's court, walked back and forth in front of the courtyard of the harem to learn how Esther was getting along and what was happening to her. Now, when it was each young woman's turn to go before the king Ahasuerus, after the end of her 12 months under the regulations for the women, for the days of their beautification were completed as follows: 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with sweet spices and perfumes, and the beauty preparations for women. So basically, they were soaked in oils. They had to bathe and soak in oils for 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with sweet spices and perfumes to get them that sweet smell. This is what the Lord took away from our women. As it's saying in Isaiah 3, he said instead of sweet smell, it should be stink. You know, the Lord took that away as a curse from our women. All of this is going to come back in the kingdom of heaven, of course. But this is how this is how our women got ready for their husbands, you know. And that's not something cheap either. The myrrh, the oils, that wasn't cheap. You know, sick for 6 months. You just think about that. Just think about how much oil costs now, you know. And then you got to multiply that for one woman to be able to bathe in that maybe twice a day, maybe 3 times a day for 6 months. And then another set of spices and perfumes for the rest of the year for another 6 months. This is all before he even laid with them, you know. And then you got to do that for all the other women, not just one woman. So you know he had wealth. He was wealthy. He was the king. He had all the wealth in the world. Well, you know, he had all the wealth in the kingdom. He was over everything. But the point I'm making is to be able to afford something like that, like this, they did it. They did it big in the ancient world, not just the heathens, but our people, because this is a custom that come from us, you know. And then afterwards, after their, like I said, their beautification preparations was done, then he would lay with them. So now let me jump down. Verse 15. 16. So Esther was taken to King Ahasuerus to his royal palace in the 10th month, and that is the month of Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. Now the king loved Esther more than all the other women, and she found favor and kindness with him more than all the other virgins. So he set the royal crown on her head and made her queen in the place of Ashanti, going into her beauty. So that was the example that was given by ChatGPT. What could increase her chances? Beauty. And we was in captivity. You know, she went from a slave to like I said, to a queen. It says exceptionally beautiful women could attract elite men, sometimes even as queens or concubines. Esther in the Bible. Now, talent, singing, dancing, or other artistic gifts could give her access to courts or elite households. It says luck or fate, but I don't really like saying luck. I'd rather say fate, because fate is like something the Lord has already set in motion. Luck is like by chance, but nothing is by chance. Everything is ordered by the Lord. But it says being in the right place at the right time. An example, a nobleman taking a liking to a servant girl. Sexual access. Some women were taken as concubines or slaves into powerful households, which could give them long-term influence. Wit or charm. Some rose through cleverness. An example, Theodore, Byzantine empress, started as an actress or a prostitute. Childbearing. If she bore a child to a powerful man, her status could increase significantly. And let's get that in the scriptures. Notwithstanding, Salaki. This is 2 Timothy. Was it 1 Timothy? 1 Timothy 2:15. Notwithstanding, she shall be saved in childbearing if they continue in faith and charity with holiness and sobriety. Right. Women, women so women of the elect will be saved and paired up and have the privilege to be with a man of the Lord. It said through childbearing, that's gonna be a part of that's already part of a role of a woman, but that's another reason why they're gonna be preserved for childbearing. And like it said, childbearing, if she bore a child to a powerful man, the men of the Lord are gonna be the most powerful men on the earth. We already are. It just hasn't manifested yet because we have this truth. We already are. Again, Lord willing, more than number, we already are. And it's just going to amplify more and more into the return of our Lord and Savior until we get into the kingdom. It's going to return. The men of the Lord are going to be the most powerful men under Yahweh Shah. And you women will be bearing children unto him, and that will increase your status significantly, because when we come up, you coming up right with us, that's how it goes. When Abraham came up, when he came up, his wife came up with him, Sarah. They didn't. What's her name? Hagar. I think it's Hagar. Hagar didn't come up. Ishmael and Hagar got sent off. Ishmael still got blessed, but he wasn't a part of the covenant. So the Lord ain't concerned with him, his mother, and his descendants. But he was concerned with Sarah and Isaac. He told Abraham and Sarah that, look, y'all gonna bear a son, and he gonna be Isaac, and that's who the covenant's gonna go through. Isaac got with Rebekah, and the angel came and told Rebekah, look, you got two nations in your womb. The younger son is gonna be the greater son, and that's who the covenant's gonna be made with. The older son, we don't care about him. So Jacob was the next in line, and the Lord established that covenant with Jacob. We know about Leah and Rachel. Leah and Rachel, these are women that's high status because Jacob became a powerful man, just like Isaac became a powerful man. We still talk about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to this day, and we can name all types of men, after them. Joseph and Mary, the parents of Yahweh Shah. Now it says notable exceptions. Here are a few historical and semi-mythical examples of regular women who became consorts or wives of high-status men. So Esther, Israelite orphan, who became queen of Persia, which I ain't gonna read the rest of them because Esther is the only one we care about. Now it says harsh truth. Most high-value men were married within their class or higher, because you just think about it now. The men of the Lord ain't gonna just pair you up with no any woman, especially not these women who refuse to repent and turn back. Those are lower level women. The mass majority of women over here in Babylon the Great will be destroyed. They're not going to be saved, and it ain't because they don't have money or anything. It's because of their mindset and their behavior. They're not the type of women the Lord is going to give to his men, his high value men. The Lord is not going to pair you up with someone who's not in that right mindset, who's not matching your energy. We are Israelites, we were created to serve the Lord, and a woman serves the Lord by serving her man. So any woman who's not doing her purpose, the Lord is not going to pair you up with her. Lower class women often become concubine servants or mistresses, not wives. Their value was usually tied to fertility, obedience. Look at this. I didn't even read this and I skipped it. It said their value was usually tied to fertility, obedience, beauty, or political usefulness. And that's the truth. That's the truth nowadays. That's why a lot of men want younger women, because of their fertility, their beauty. You can say obedience, but really they always women always say they was young and dumb. Okay, true, because of this society, how things are, how people are, the mindsets. But really, women, they're not. You can't really say it's young and dumb because when a man gets with a woman, he is supposed to guide her. And if they got with a man, and a righteous man or a high value man, a man of Yahweh Bashim Abashai, no matter how young they are, if they're obedient to that man, they're going to be led in the right direction. That's how it's supposed to be. So like I said, fertility, obedience, and beauty, which is the main three, but obedience being first, because we read that in Proverbs 31. So it sums it up. It says low to moderate, depending on exceptional traits and circumstances and chances. The best pathways for certain women is beauty, talent, luck, or fate, and childbearing with a powerful man. But most common outcome is concubine or short-term interest, not marriage. Now, it asked me if I wanted to do a comparison to the modern times, and I said, yeah. And then it says regular women and high-value men. And see, this is what the modern world considers high value. It says social mobility, very limited. Well, ancient world is very limited for women, but in the modern world is much more open. You got education, careers, internet, global mobility, and this makes these women think that they're above the man. Marriage dynamics. It was arranged, class-based, and political. But in modern day world, it says based more on personal choice, but still influenced by status. The status of this world, but personal choice. She might like his eyes. She might like the way he laughs, or she might like the car he drives. She might like the amount of money he makes. So she's running his pockets. She's trying to get with him. It has nothing to do with Yahweh Ba'ashim Abashai. Female agency. Low, controlled by male relatives or social class. And then it says high, legal rights, economic independence. See, there it is, economic independence. Independent, strong woman, a strong, independent woman. And for the Southern Kingdom, strong, independent black woman. But back then, it said it was controlled by male relatives or social class. The men controlled that. Who you winded up with and your choices and how you got about doing things. That was controlled by men, like it's supposed to be. But now you got women are extremely single and extremely unhappy. And it even said by the year 2030, and that's crazy. Let me look that up. Is it true that by 2030, majority of women would be single? It says no, it's not true. The majority of women will be single by 2030. However, a significant increase in single women is projected. A 2019 Morgan Stanley report predicted that 45% of women ages. I worded the question wrong. That's why I said no. It says a 2019 Morgan Stanley report predicted that 45% of women ages 25 to 44 will be single by 2030, up from 41% in 2018. Not a majority, So it says projected 45% of women will be single, Factors influencing the trends. Several factors are contributing to this shift. More women are prioritizing their careers and personal development. The average age of marriage is increasing. Women are seeking greater financial independence, higher relationship standards, and a focus on personal fulfillment are also factors, And women being single is an agent for chaos, just like we see in today's time. And I don't think people realize 2030, just going about how things are now, 2030 ain't nothing but 4 years away. Here it is. We mid October. You only got November, December. It's 2026. That's 4 years away. You know, and it said it's 41% in 2018, and they projecting 45%. So we got to be somewhere in between 42, 43 right now. You know, all these women are single. That's why all these women go to these single events and don't have no man. You know, but I was still in, what's it called? Here it is. You know, beauty, charm as leverage, often the only leverage. But now in modern days, it's still useful, but one of many tools. An example, education, career, and success, and becoming a wife versus lover. Powerful men often kept concubines, rarely married commoners. Rarely married commoners. And now it says more acceptable today to marry across class status lines. Now here's the high value man then and now. Kings, nobles, wards, priests, or prophets. But now they consider high value as millionaires, CEOs, influencers, athletes, and politicians. Completely worldly. Completely carnal. You know? Has nothing to do with what actually matters. You know? Born into power versus can earn or build status. And then has many wives or concubines, and in today's time, usually monogamous publicly, but with more options, you know? So basically they saying in public, they show as if they got one wife, but really they be messing around with many women. That ain't changed, you know? So what are the odds today? It says regular women are regular women, no fame, wealth, or major status, has a higher chance of getting with a high-value man than in ancient times. But the value of a man doesn't change. It doesn't change just because it's a modern-day time. Same with women. What makes you a high-value woman doesn't change just because these are modern day. So, and that's the problem. Because this whole economy is finna collapse. And all these CEOs, these people with power and money, you know, that they consider high value in today's society, they're going to either be faced with having to take the MOTB, Revelations 13-16, or they're going to have to lose it all. And when they lose it all, they're not going to know how to handle it. You know, they're not going to know how to handle it. They're not going to want to lose it all. But being a man of Yahweh Shem Shah, we come from not having it, you know, but we got this truth, which is far more valuable than anything on this earth. Let me get Revelations chapter 2 and 9. It's Revelation chapter 2, verse 9. In the AMP, I know your suffering and your poverty, but you are rich. And how are we rich? We rich in faith. We rich in faith. We're rich in knowledge, but the main thing is faith. And how you are blasphemy and slandered by those who say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. They are Jews. Well, it's going off right there. But I'm reading the KJV. I know thou works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. This wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of Yahweh Shema Bashar is more precious than anything on this earth. And like it said, the Lord said he will make a man more precious than fine gold, a man of Yahweh Shema Bashar, even than the golden wedge of Ophir. That's real value because you are a man of the Lord. You are connected to the power of the universe, the king of the universe. So what modern times say about you being high value, that's not really high value. Now I'm gonna read this. It says, but reality check, modern version. Well, it's still going into what modern day considers high value. So right here it says the era in the ancient world, the chances for a regular woman were low, used unless stunningly beautiful, lucky, or fate, or useful to a powerful man. And this is women who had better mindset and better behavior. The women of today's time, just like Vashanti, they'd be beginning to behead. You'll just be seeing women heads all over the place. It says modern world, moderate, high agency, more tools, more access, but still competitive. And again, they consider the high value completely worldly, but that's not value. That's not that's not what true value is. And I'm gonna end it on this. This is Ecclesiastes 7:12 in the AMP. For wisdom is a protection, even as money is well, I'm reading both. I'm gonna start at KJV. For wisdom is a defense, and money is a defense. But the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life to him that have it. Now in the AMP, for wisdom is a protection, even as money is a protection. But the excellent advantage of knowledge is that wisdom shields and preserves the lives of its possessors. So wisdom and knowledge, now I'm going to end it on that. Isaiah 33:6. KJV, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times and strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord, the fear of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua is his treasure. So have a man of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua is truly a high value man, and it's a blessing to be a high value man, of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua. It's a privilege, It's nothing that we chose. We didn't do anything to be considered that, And I'm talking about the elect, I know I'm saying we, Lord willing of that number, but the elect, they didn't do anything to be a part of that. Yahweh Ba'ashim, it was literally all by Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua's design. And the same with you women, it's a blessing to be paired and a privilege to be paired with a man of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua, which is truly the high value man. So Lord will, this lesson was edifying. And I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua, Ba'ashim Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS that rule well. Peace, love, and salutations to all the brothers out there pushing this word of sincerity and the truth. Shalom to the brothers, sisters, and children out there keeping this word of sincerity and the truth. Until next time, shalom.